Hi guys, welcome back to the Endurance podcast. As usual, we've got Tim and myself here, and we've got a guest this time, Jasper Paridaens. I hope I pronounced that about right. Who was a Zwift Academy finalist last year in 2022. So we're going to talk a little bit about his background, how he got involved in Zwift, his nutrition for indoor training and racing, and stuff like that. So I guess best thing to start really is with Jasper. How did you get involved in cycling and in Zwift in particular?
I actually started my indoor experience, my indoor sessions on a Zwift, and thanks to the main guy here in Belgium who is involved with all the indoor and Zwift stuff. His name is Stefan Peitgat. He is also the manager of the All Belgium squad, who is also racing in the Zwift Grand Prix series. And yeah, it was in the COVID years. We are not allowed to race outside. And I think every racer was looking for something else, for some other objectives, and yeah, that's actually the main reason why I started with the indoor races, COVID, and yeah, Zwift was a nice thing to do. I actually fell in love with it, and it's just a nice way to get some competition in the winter months as well. And yeah, when the results are actually quite good, I just keep racing on it.
When you started racing on Zwift, was it, or starting using Zwift, let's say, you just started using Zwift for the sake of racing or also training? Because indoor training has usually been pretty popular in countries where the weather is not really nice, especially in the winter months, like in the UK and Belgium. Or was it just you wanted to race and there were no races, so you started Zwifting?
I actually wanted to race and to actually pain myself, because that was also a thing that I missed during that times. And I just wanted to compete against other riders, and it wasn't possible then. And yeah, that's actually the main reason why I started with the indoor races, and the training stuff and the benefits of training on Zwift came actually later on, that I thought, oh, the training and the custom workouts are actually also quite good for the races outside. So
you basically were training outdoors and then just racing indoors.
Yeah.
So basically the opposite of what some other people might do. And now you also do structured workout indoors. Do you use erg mode, or is it always free mode when you do training sessions?
I use the erg mode. It's just easy to keep your power steady and to complete the training blocks you had to do. You don't need to look at your screen. I need to do still two minutes or some time I had to do on a specific power. No, it just moved by itself, and it's way more easier to train on the erg mode than on the free mode.
Totally agree.
Yeah.
No. I don't really use the tempo trainer much anyway, so but I would say in terms of translating that to when you go outside, it's not in erg mode outside. Obviously, I can understand it makes it easier to hold that set power. I tend to not encourage people to use erg mode, certainly not all of the time. But maybe that's another story. So going back to when you first started on Zwift, I guess Zwift and other indoor training formats are probably the only thing that benefited from COVID in the world. So had you trained then for a normal season of racing outside, and then obviously that was stopped in March of that year, and so you wanted to use your fitness?
Yeah, I prepared myself in winter like I always do. Before the indoor races, it was most of the time on the mountain bike outside, or just on the race bike. In bad weather conditions. What it's most of the time here in Belgium. Then the COVID came and the lockdowns, and there were no races. So I think a lot of riders here in Belgium switched automatically to the Zwift platform, or maybe other indoor platforms. And for me, it was like a normal switch. I think I wasn't the only one who needs to race against the others. So it was like, it was normal. So yeah.
How has your setup changed over the time? Like, you probably started like with a very poor fan and poor ventilation, and do you have something special now that makes you like suffer less on the bike indoors?
I started actually with a cheap Elite trainer, Elite Diretto, and actually on my first Zwift race, so my first Zwift race I ever did, I won the Kicker Power V5. So that was actually the first upgrade that I had. And when you are selected to compete in the World Championships, you have the option to buy a new trainer from Wahoo, and so I actually always did. And now I'm racing on the Wahoo Power V6, and I have, I think, 3 fans in front of me, and on hot summer days it can be a 3. So
Yeah, I find that like the ventilation to be the most important thing, like myself, because I spend like 14 hours a week probably at the moment indoors on the Kicker with the Kicker fan. I just use trainer road. I don't compete or anything, but yeah, I know this experience. How do you like ventilate the room? Do you have windows open or like the humidifier? Did you go like one step ahead, or is it just the fan and the bike?
Nowadays it's the fan and the bike, because it is winter here in Belgium. So the room temperature where my setup is located, it's now approximately 5 or 6 degrees. So it's actually very good for racing indoors. But in this summer it's just all windows open, all the fans on my head, and just drinking a lot. It can be like two or 3 bottles an hour in summer days. So yeah, cooling down is maybe sometimes the most important thing in Zwift.
Yeah, most people don't understand this, I think. Like, I saw many professionals doing Zwift races I don't know, for sponsoring purposes, and then you see like a very tiny little fan in front of them or no fan at all, and they're like sweating, and you're like, come on, guys, you're professionals, you should know better. Have the fans on, but yeah, people just, because even if it's 5 degrees, right, you
Yeah.
need the fan.
Absolutely.
When I broke my arm, I was doing turbo training and I did it outside in the winter. And even then, I'd start off with long sleeves on and everything like that. And then just gradually you're taking clothes off. And that's even outside. So obviously, indoors with a few degrees warmer, you overheat so quickly, don't you?
Absolutely. Nowadays here in winter, I always start with my long sleeves, but actually after 5 or 10 minutes, it's like too hot, and I just move it out, and it's way better with the fan and short sleeves when you are actually riding indoors.
Tim goes for the extra pain of doing it in the heat chamber, though, don't you, normally?
Yeah. Well, yeah. Then the kicker needs the ventilator, not me.
It will overheat with your power.
So how much, like at the moment, like how much training do you do indoors and how much do you do outdoors, and what is like your training volume in total?
Around 15 hours, 15 hours a week these months. And they are actually all indoors. I can't even remember the last time when I did a ride on the bike outdoors. I think it could be half of October, so already 2 months yet that I actually ride always indoors. I remember last year I spent it like 4 months every training on my indoor bike. So the first ride outdoor was a little bit strange, but after several minutes you get back used to it, and yeah.
Do you still compete outside? Do you still do
Yeah.
kermesses or anything as well? Or
The road season here in Belgium start from when the Belgian Classic starts. So we in the last week of February, and it continues until the third week of October. So
and how do you find the crossover when you finish the season of Zwift racing? Normally, relatively short races to go out and you do 100, 120 kilometers plus racing.
I switched to the longer races quite easy. But yeah, you have the condition from the indoor races, and for me it's not a big switch to the longer races. So it's not that I noticed to myself, oh, I've actually problem with the length of the outside races. No, it's doable for me.
Maybe the weather's more of a problem in February, March in Belgium when you start outside.
More. Absolutely. Sorry.
What's your longest ride on Zwift?
My longest ride was probably last year between Christmas and New Year's Eve. There was a ride on Zwift, the full PRL London. So it's 175 Ks, and I think it was a 5-hour ride.
Oh, okay, not too long then.
Not too long.
5 hours, yeah.
Long enough.
Yeah, but yeah. Maybe
Did you have loads of bottles lined up next to you so you didn't have to stop too much and
or I just call to someone in the other rooms and say, hey, can you bring me some liquid? And most of the
yeah.
So yeah, speaking of nutrition, like how do you go about like planning the nutrition for the races, and like do you have like a special protocol, or do you just do what you think works best?
Well, I started this year with a more specific nutrition protocol. But the previous years it was just a bottle of a bottle of sugar, a Coca-Cola or something like that, and a bottle of water. But nowadays it's more endurance powder and some gels that are ready to take, and a bottle of waters as well. But it's more professional now, I think. So I use the powder. I use the gels after the ride. Most of the time when I not forget, I take the recovery, and it's also the indoor racing world is improving, and when you are not improving with them, the your opponents your opponents are just month after month they are getting better, and you actually need to do something extra to keep competing with them, and yeah, you feel yourself stronger when you use the right nutrition, and afterwards when you take the recovery, you feel yourself better the following days, and it's just like racing outdoors when you are in a small stage race. um yeah.
How do you like, what about like the hours before, like a special breakfast? Do you have a special routine, like the day before, like glycogen loading? Do you do any of that, or is it more by the feel? Or
I keep it in my mind and it's actually started from the evening before. um it's like then carbo loading, and in the day of the race itself, I personally I don't eat that much, because you need to wait yourself for like 2 hours before the start of the race. So it's fast digesting food, and yeah, just after the waiting, you eat something sweet, something high sugar, and then it's actually racing on a nearby empty stomach.
That's
and
interesting. I hadn't really considered how similar it is to other sort of more weight category based sports. Obviously, if it's boxing or lightweight rowing or something like that, the weigh in before is so important. And I'd never really considered that in Zwift, but since it's all watts per kilo, and there's like you say, the weigh in a couple of hours before, things a different dimension to it.
Yeah, and for me, it gives me actually a little bit of a stress. Like now you have the Zwift Grand Prix where it is mandatory to wait yourself 2 hours before the start of the race, and like I said before, I'm I started with my food and with my liquid intake like one day or sometimes 2 days before, that I say to myself, come on, eat the best food and the fastest digesting food you can take. And yes, I don't know, it's like it's good for everyone, because you can lose too much of of your body weight. And I don't know, it can be sometimes more negative for your performance and than positive, because weight is important, but you can lose too much weight that you have just no power in your legs anymore. I made that decision, the bad decision of weighting too less on the World Championships a couple of years ago. I was just so much busy in my head to weight the less as possible that I just forgot that you also need some power in your legs, and yeah, that mistakes can happen.
Yeah, 2 hours before is not a big window of opportunity to make up for it if you've dehydrated yourself, or as you say, you've not taken enough food, carbohydrates on board in those days before to try and meet that weight. Is it a special scales that everyone has to have the same scales to weigh themselves on, or how do they do that? So is that similar to in the World Championships, everybody has the same trainer, no?
In the World Championships, everyone has the same trainer, and everyone had to weight themselves like 2 hours before the start of the race. And the weigh-in protocol is for everyone the same. It just weight in yourself, weight in something from approximately 10 kilos.
So it's your own personal scales that you have at home.
Yeah.
So somebody's scales could weigh a little bit different compared to if I weigh myself on my scales and then weigh myself in Tim's lab on his 5,000 pounds scales. I'd expect his to be more accurate than mine.
Well, actually, the exact protocol of the weigh-in is you measure your scales. It's like
So you have a reference weight for the...
Yeah, absolutely. It's like 10 kilos. Yeah. Afterwards, you show the zero, so the zero display. Then you just weight yourself, show the zero display as well, and afterwards you weight the scales and yourself, and it should be exactly the same.
Right. I understand, yeah.
I'm not that busy with how to manipulate the weighed-in stuff, so it's not a big thing for me.
How is now that like in a like high season for Zwift, how many races do you do per week? Like how do you manage like that recovery and that the training stress doesn't go too high?
Well, actually, that was a problem for me last season, last indoor season. I did too much races. I did the Zwift Academy workouts. So actually, last year I finished the road season in the end of October, and I did the Zwift Academy workouts from end of September until the mid of October. So that was actually a high stressful period of that year. And when I get the message that I was selected for the Zwift Academy finals in November, that was a sign for me to just train harder and to focus myself on the Zwift Academy finals. And I went to Spain. I went with the Alpecin de Koning team, and I did the Zwift Academy finals. I took several days off, and afterwards it was just like started the Zwift Grand Prix races, some some other small races in between to be selected for future championships, like the Belgium championships, like the World Championships. So I actually never stopped racing until the last week of February, and I was in the last months, in the last weeks of February, I was actually mentally empty from all these weeks, all these months, focusing on the indoor races and on my indoor goals. So last year it was like a little bit too much. So I learned that lessons, and this year I just take one or two races a week. I think that's enough for this period of the year. But yeah, I learned my lesson from last year.
So over that sort of 12-month period between, say, the February to the February, you must have done a lot of racing if you raced all through the summer on the road and then also indoors. How many races do you think you did over that period of time?
Oh, the combinations of the combination of in and outdoor, it can be easily 70 or 80 races. Yeah,
That's quite a lot.
Yeah.
So you don't actually have an off season then, pretty much. Like, do you take like a month off or like 3 weeks off training completely, like most professionals do?
last year, no, I did not. But this year I did. I took 2 or 3 weeks. I didn't any kind of race or high intensity stuff. I actually got the Epstein-Barr virus. It started in April, May this year, and I noticed during the summer I was always fatigued and empty, and the results weren't what I was used. So I did some blood analysis, and yeah, the result was that I was actually with that Epstein-Barr virus. That was for me the sign to take some intensity back for my body for the month of October.
Small amount of time off was enough for that to recover completely, and you're able to race again.
Exactly. And I think that's a thing that I had to do between the indoor and the outdoor season in February as well.
Yeah.
So I think it's just good to take some week rest during the in and outdoor season, because otherwise it's too intensity. All the indoor races are just yeah, they are extremely hard, and the intensity isn't something you can forget.
What would be like, people are still trying to go for Zwift? Like, what is basically like the biggest rookie mistakes of the beginners that they do wrong when they start training indoors? Do you think, like, what would you recommend everyone? They bought like a trainer and then, or decide to buy a trainer. Like, what would you recommend? How to start?
I would say start and be sure you can stay in the bench. That's like step one, and stay there to the end. And when you have something left in the tank, give everything the last 300 meters. That's for race one. And when you are improving your level, and when you are used to that, you can think about attacking. and attacking, and maybe took some races with the with the with a parkour with more altitude meters. But the first races, stay in the bunch and give everything the last part of the race.
And how many times would you recommend people to race, like every day? I remember I was racing every day, and then I got sick, and it didn't work anywhere.
I wouldn't say every day. It's like when you are starting, you you should feel to your body what is enough, and what can you do more. But I say start with one race or maybe 2 races a week, and when you are when you complete these races good, you can start maybe for another race in the week. So 3 races, but I I wouldn't say do more than 3 races a week.
When you're in the Zwift final with all the other finalists, and you're riding together outside in real life, would you say there was a good crossover between those who you thought were the best on Zwift and on the road, or did you see some differences in some people who were more experienced in one versus the other?
Yeah, you saw actually some differences from a rider who was used to ride on Zwift. They have like a lower cadence than the riders who are more riding on the road. That's actually the main difference that I saw. But yeah, a good rider on the road isn't necessarily a good rider in Zwift. I saw a good rider on the road, actually a pro rider. And in his first Zwift race, he was dropped immediately. But at the end, in the when you see the results, um, that guy had actually the highest power numbers of the whole bunch. So, but he wasn't used to race on Zwift, and he was actually dropped immediately. But he was just so strong that he had the highest numbers. So racing in Zwift is something else than racing in the real world. And but on the Zwift Academy finals, the difference in cadence was the main part of saying, okay, that's a Zwifter, and that's like a more real road racer.
So it sounds like riding efficiently on Zwift versus riding efficiently on the road is where those tactics come in play. What's an efficient way to ride on the road? You would expect the professional to be really good at. He could sit out of the wind, etc. Doesn't come into play so much on Zwift. It's more maybe anticipating what people are going to do and not having to be chasing all the time when somebody attacks, because you don't get that same sense of what's happening on the computer. That's what I found anyway when I rode Zwift.
Yeah, that's actually a key point that you say right now. Stay in the bunch is like a critical point in the indoor races. When you have like a virtual 10 meters behind, you are actually dropped, and you actually had to put like 2 or 3 watts per kilo more than the guys in the bunch to go back into the bunch. So it's like wasting energy, and when you are not used to that, you are dropped really fast.
That was me when I tried Zwift racing.
I was always in the front, and then, well, in the finish, I was dropped. But that was 4 years ago.
Yeah.
Cool. Yeah, without like taking you too much time, like thanks a lot for joining us. I think listeners can learn from the best in the business about Zwift, and good luck in the future.
Thank you. It was nice. It was a really nice chat, and I hope I could help you with the a podcast and with some other Zwift tricks.
Yeah, that was brilliant. Thanks for the tips and tricks, Jasper.
No problem.